Welcome to the Flame Test Lab. A flame test is a test to determine the identity of a metal that might be in a compound. So I've got several solutions here. For example, potassium, there's sodium, there's lithium. There are several different metals, they're ions that are dissolved in water. And if I have an unknown sample, for example, of some compound, I can tell what the metal is based on the color of light that's emitted when I put the sample through some heat, through a flame. So I'm going to start off with potassium, and we'll see what happens when potassium ions go into this flame. And that first color that we see, this sort of lilac color, is very indicative of potassium. So if you ever were to do a similar test on some unknown and you saw that lilac color, you'd know it's probably potassium. Next, we're going to take sodium. And we put the sodium into the flame and we get a totally different color. This sort of yellowish, almost an orange yellow is indicative of sodium. Next, we're going to try lithium. And we get more of a red color, a deep red. Next we'll do calcium. And for calcium, we get a sort of orange. It's not too far off of the sodium, but it's a little bit more orange. Then we have strontium. And that gives more of a bright red. Not quite as deep a red as the lithium. And finally we have barium. No, second to last we have barium. We get a kind of like a lighter green. And then last we have copper. And this copper is definitely a little bit darker of a green relative to the barium. So those are our base samples. What I'm going to do next is we're going to look at the sodium through cobalt glass. And so what we'll do is we'll take a piece of cobalt glass and put that in front of the camera. And with sodium, we previously saw yellow. And right now, this is very bright to me. You probably don't see any yellow through the camera. There's a good reason for it. The cobalt glass absorbs the wavelength of yellow that's coming from the sample. So the yellow comes out, it hits the cobalt glass, the cobalt absorbs that yellow, and actually the reason why the cobalt glass has that deep blue color is that our eyes perceive white light minus that yellow as cobalt color, that deep blue. So what we're seeing is the absence of that yellow color. And the cobalt glass, it's a filter effectively. It can actually be very helpful because, remember, the sodium gave a very, very intense color, but the cobalt filters it out. Well, what if we have a mixture of, say, potassium and sodium? I'm going to show this twice. The first time, all you can see is that yellow from the sodium. You can't see the lilac color from the potassium because it's too muted. But next, if we look through the filter, we're not going to see the sodium's yellow. We should be able to see the lilac color from the potassium. So that is the flame test. Hope this video has been helpful.